Welcome to Mission Minute News. I'm your host from Wordnet Productions, Jennifer Rodriguez. First, the headlines. The Pope asked Mary to guide humanity to peace. Turkey and Lebanon show that peace is possible. Pope Leo's advice on AI use by youth. Updates from SVD, SSPS World, and religious visas tightening. These stories and more on Mission Minute News. The Pope asked Mary to guide humanity to peace. On December 8th, Pope Leo XIV visited the Piazza di Spagna in Rome, continuing a tradition initiated by Pope Pius XII to honor the statue of the Immaculate Conception, which graces the top of a 12-meter column. He was joined by a crowd of 30,000, including children, the elderly, and the sick. Upon arrival, Pope Leo was welcomed by Cardinal Baldassare Reina and Rome's mayor, Roberto Gualtieri, as the choir sang a Marian hymn. After an opening prayer, the Pope placed a bouquet at the base of the column and joined in praying the Litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Pope invoked Mary's intercession for peace, hope, and reconciliation to guide humanity toward justice and faith in Christ, assuring all that the Church will remain close to the people and foster dignity, nonviolence, and unity. Turkey and Lebanon show that peace is possible. Pope Leo XIV recalls his recent apostolic journey to Turkey and Lebanon with hope, saying his encounter there showed that peace is possible if we build it together. The Pope thanks the many people who made the event possible and the faithful who prayed for its success. In Turkey, he had prayed with his beloved brother Bartholomew, ecumenical patriarch of Constantinople, and the representatives of other Christian confessions at the site of the Council of Nicaea in 325, known today as the town of Iznik. Precisely today, we mark the 60th anniversary of the common declaration between Paul VI and the Patriarch Athenagoras, which put an end to the mutual excommunications, he said. Let us give thanks to God and renew our commitment to the journey toward the full visible unity of all Christians. Pope Leo was glad to meet with the Catholic community of Turkey, which he said bears a witness to the gospel of love in its patient dialogue and service to those who suffer. Turning to Lebanon, the Pope was happy to say that the country continues to be a mosaic of coexistence, as many of the people proudly proclaim. I met people who proclaimed the gospel by welcoming the displaced, visiting prisoners, and sharing the bread with those in need, he said. I was heartened to see so many people in the streets greeting me, and I was deeply moved by the meeting with the relatives of the victims of the explosion at the port of Beirut. Complimenting his words of consolation, the Pope said he had received greater consolation from the Lebanese people's faith and enthusiasm. What has taken place in recent days in Turkey and Lebanon teaches us that peace is possible, continues Pope Leo, and that Christians, in dialogue with men and women of other faiths and cultures, can help to build it. Pope Leo's advice on the use of AI by the youth. Speaking at the Artificial Intelligence and Care for Our Common Home Conference, December 5th, 2025, Pope Leo XIV urged support for young people in using technology responsibly. He stressed that data is not the same as wisdom, which requires reflection on life's deeper questions. The conference was organized by the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation and the Strategic Alliance of Catholic Research Universities to evaluate the impact of AI on industry, finance, education, and communications. Pope Leo invited participants to teach young people how to use these new technologies along with their own intelligence in order to search for truth and broaden their decision-making. Never before has it been so clear that a profound reversal of direction is needed in our idea of maturing, the Pope said. The Pope called for coordinated action across politics, business, education, and faith communities to ensure AI serves the common good, not just profit. He warned of AI's impact on critical thinking and relationships, urging safeguards for human dignity and creativity. Human beings are co-creators, not passive consumers, he said, emphasizing the need to restore confidence in humanity's ability to guide technology and protect freedom, truth, and beauty. Artificial intelligence has certainly opened up new horizons for creativity, but it also raises serious concerns about possible repercussions on humanity's openness to truth and beauty, and capacity for wonder and contemplation, he said. Recognizing and safeguarding what characterizes the human person and guarantees his or her balanced growth, he emphasized, it is essential for establishing an adequate framework for managing the consequences of artificial intelligence. Updates on the SVD SSPS world. In Uganda, from November 28th to the 30th, the SVD SSPS Uganda province organized an assembly for the catechist leaders of the small Christian communities and the chairpersons of the Holy Family Parish. SSPS sisters also helped to conduct workshops for the youth and adults, including women's Catholic action groups. In Mozambique, in the wake of the terrorist attacks in Mozambique's Memba district, November 10th through 17th, fear and uncertainty have gripped the region. Entire villages have fled to safer areas, only to encounter new hardships and host communities stretched beyond their capacity. With water, food, and shelter scarce, the needs are immense and growing. In a gesture of solidarity and support, a small delegation comprised of 2 SSPS and 2 SVD and 2 Kombani missionaries traveled to Alua to deliver essential supplies, flour, clothing, and seeds. While the visit provided critical relief and a powerful sign of hope, the path to recovery remains long. Extensive support is urgent. In Australia, St. Anne's Parish, Palm Island, Australia Province, is a small but mission-focused faith community built on divine word outreach, presence, and accompaniment for the island's mostly First Nations people. Parish Administrator Father Man Le, SVD, says his ministry is largely one of personal encounter, taking the time to share in conversation with the people of the island as they go about their lives. It is all about slowing down and talking together, just being there, Father Man says. If we keep talking, we can build relationship. The power of one-to-one encounter is something the First Nations people are teaching us. In the Philippines, on September 30th, a magnitude 6.9 quake hit the northern coast of the Philippine island of Cebu. At least 72 people were killed, with more than 550 reported injured. Destruction was widespread. Homes crumbled, roads became impassable. Divine Word's missionaries based on the island's southern coast began immediate relief efforts, delivering food, clean water, and basic necessities, while the mission office in Techne has initiated an emergency fundraising appeal to support the efforts of our missionaries in the Philippines who continue to need assistance to rebuild the devastated communities. Donations are welcome, and every dollar helps. In Poland, the Jubilee of Migrants and Refugees, celebrated in Poland October 4th and 5th, took place under the theme of Migrants, the Missionaries of Hope. The event was an expression of faith, unity, and intercultural communion that labeled the church in Warsaw a home where people from all over the world find welcome and belonging. The celebration opened with a Mass at St. Stanislav Kostka Parish in Markov, one of the main Vietnamese centers, with Father Joseph Nguyen, SVD chaplain, presiding. During the liturgy, Father Sylvester Grabowski, SVD, Provincial Superior of the Poland Province, expressed heartfelt gratitude to the Vietnamese faithful for their living witness of faith and dedication to the life of the Church. The concluding celebration on October 5th at St. Hedwig in Silesia Parish, Warsaw, was presided over by Bishop Romuald Kominski of the Diocese of Warsaw-Praga. The Eucharist, celebrated in Polish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and several African languages, manifested the rich cultural diversity and missionary spirit that defined the Church's life among the migrants in Poland. This Jubilee served as both a thanksgiving for the faith of the migrant community and a reminder of their vital role as bearers of hope within the Universal Church. Paraguay. In September, more than 80 young people from various Divine Word communities in Paraguay gathered in Picuri to celebrate the 10th SVD Youth Congress. The event was organized as part of the Society of Divine Word's 150th anniversary and guided by the mottos, Witnesses to the Light, From Everywhere for Everyone, and the Pilgrims of Hope. It was led by the Mission Animation Team and Father Anthony Mosunda SVD, who with volunteers, families, and communities carefully created a welcoming and fraternal atmosphere. Ghana. The Divine Word Youth Training Center in Tamale, Ghana, whose mission is to empower young people toward a brighter future, made history on September 12th with the graduation of its first class of trainees in a colorful ceremony. The occasion was filled with thanksgiving, joy, and hope for the future. Established by the Divine Word missionaries in 2019, the training center equips the youth of northern Ghana with practical, vocational, and entrepreneurial skills that promote self-reliance and full human development. In Chile, an atmosphere of enthusiasm and youthful joy filled the facilities of the Divine Word missionaries in La Florida, Chile, as 159 young people from various Divine Word parishes and schools across the country gathered from October 24th through 26th for the 17th Missionary Youth Encounter. The gathering afforded a special time of unity, fraternity, and renewal of missionary spirit as the young people shared their faith and commitment as missionaries of Christ, the Divine Word. This year's encounter carried the SVD Jubilee theme, Witnesses to the Light, From Everywhere for Everyone, and invited each participant to recognize their calling as bearers of Christ's light in a wounded world longing for hope and guidance. Religious visas tightening. Every year in the fall, religious congregations in the United States send their treasurers and other financial administrators to a conference of the Resource Center for Religious Institutes. This year, one of the main presentations centered around recent changes in federal immigration policy, 462 changes, in fact. One of the less reported areas of the immigration changes affects religious congregations assigning their members to ministry in the United States. Visas for religious workers, whether R1 visitor or H1B, are now tougher than ever to obtain. It seems that all the processes, none of which are ever simple, will now take longer. Graciela Mateo of Catholic Legal Immigration Network says, "Customer service is not one of ICE's hallmarks. After the application, there's the wait for a possible interview at the decision of the consulate. Social media posts from each applicant are combed for criticism of the government or of one country over another. R1 visa terms are often shortened from 2.5 years to 12 months or less, as related to the country of origin, and one entry-only policy is sometimes applied, tremendously complicating ministry continuity. R1 interviews, including for renewal visas, must now be in the country of nationality or residence, often a great inconvenience when formerly a third country was allowed. Another option for entry is the visitor visa, but here restrictions prevent payment of a stipend for work and prohibit fundraising efforts. Visitors from countries with a high rate of overstayed visas require a bond of up to $15,000, which can be lost if the visitor also overstays the visit. Dead Man Still Walking. The famous movie by director Tim Robbins, Dead Man Walking, gained an Academy Award for the actor who played the role of prison chaplain, St. Joseph S. Hallen Prison, that is, Susan Sarandon. The story of S. Hallen's prison ministry on death row first appeared as a book, a memoir, in 1993. After its 1995 film adaptation, the book went on to become an opera by composer Jake Hedgie and librettist Terrence McNally in 2000, and then a play by Tim Robbins in 2002. The latest adaptation aims at younger audiences and an illustrated graphic version sponsored by the Fordham Center on Religion and Culture, published by Random House, illustrated by artist Catherine Ayanguano Grunwald, and textually adapted by Rose Vines. The 304-page offering comes with the hope of more Americans joining the movement to eliminate the death penalty. Pridgen admits that even for herself, her death row ministry was an awakening to justice regarding the issue of the death penalty. Undoubtedly, opposition to the practice has grown thanks to S. Hallen's memoir, but credit is also due to the increasing number of cases in which death row inmates were wrongly convicted and have since received exoneration. Pridgen now works with Ministry Against Death Penalties, one of several U.S. advocacy groups. Sarandon, who was raised Roman Catholic, said she hopes the new version lands in the hands of Pope Leo XIV, calling him a woke pope, who will likely follow several recent popes in strong opposition to the death penalty. Defenders of migrants. In late July and November, two Sisters of Mercy in their 90s, Pat Humphrey and Joanne Persh, advocates for migrants, left us. In the 90s, the two sisters were running the Sukasa Catholic Worker House in Chicago, serving refugees from Central America who were survivors of war, torture, and political persecution. From 1997 to 2002, Murphy and Perch ministered at Casa Notre Dame in Chicago, a shelter for women fleeing domestic violence or recovering from addiction. In 2007, the two sisters began organizing weekly prayer vigils outside the ICE Processing Center in Broadview, Illinois, the final stop for migrants scheduled for deportation, and in 2008, they were instrumental in the passage of state law that permitted them and other faith leaders access to providing spiritual care for migrants in state detention facilities, something recently backtracked in Illinois. In 2018, in their 80s, both were arrested at the Catholic Day of Action for Dreamers in Washington, D.C. In 2022, they founded Catherine's Caring Cause, named in honor of their Sisters of Mercy founder, Catherine McAuley, to assist refugee families in finding shelter, providing basic needs, and navigating life in a new country. In 2023, the two sisters were the recipients of a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Chicago Archdiocesan Immigrant Ministry. Sisters of Mercy President Susan Sanders has said, "This, I believe, was at the heart of their spiritual resilience and resistance: prayer, courage, nonviolence, persistence, and love. They resisted evil by taking the gospel message very, very seriously." Sanders, asking the question, "Who will take their place?" has answered, "Presh and Murphy's work is our work now." U.S. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois echoed Sanders' thoughts about continuing their work when he said, "It is a reminder and a challenge to each of us to welcome the stranger and to choose kindness over hate and fear." If you have a comment or question about any of our stories, please email us at missionminutenews@wordnet.tv. You can also post your comments below each YouTube video. We promise to respond. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Share with others about the channel and the variety of programs you enjoy there. Please join us every Wednesday for our online Eucharist and Adoration and Benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can always catch it later on YouTube. Send your prayer intentions for the Eucharist by phone to 909-383-4333 or by email to mail@wordnet.tv. This is Mission Minute News. Until we meet again, stay safe and well, and may Jesus' love for you make you smile.